This is the Civil War letter of Hiram A. Chambers, written on November 1st, 1861. Letter number 32. Headquarters 15th Regiment Mass Volunteers, Poolesville, Maryland, November 1st, 1861. Dear Parents and Brother, I received your letter last night, and it made my heart leap with joy to hear that you had received my letter. I suppose that you would think me amongst the missing, and I can say that I came very nigh being there. Now that is so, but you all seem to want to know about the battle and get the correct account thereof. Well, I will give you a detailed account of it, that is, if possible. Already I am disturbed and have got to go to do police duty this forenoon. Well, now I can commence. Sunday noon while at dinner we had orders to pack our knapsacks as soon as possible and start for the 5½ mile from where we were. We had to let our dinner go and get ready. We took some hard bread and junk of cold boiled horse, and shouldered our little rifle and started for battle. You would little have thought to have seen them there that they were going to set themselves for a target to be shot at by them rebels of the South. We crossed the river to the island. The first company, I mean the first company that we crossed, for Company H was stationed on the island as picket, we laid down after the rest of the companies had gotten over Nims by companies A, G, and I, making it in all 5 companies, A, C, G, H, and I. We went to sleep and were roused at 12 at night and drawn up in line to cross the river on to the Virginia shore. Well, I will commence again and see how far I can get before I am called up again. I have just got through dinner, and before dinner I had to attend the funeral of Luther Turner, one of our company who died of his wounds received in the Battle of Ball's Bluff. To come in where I left off, we crossed over the river without any trouble. The most that could be carried at a time was about 25. This was slow work. Now I can tell you that there were about 400 of our regiment carried over. Then we were formed in line and started towards Leesburg, the place of the rebel rendezvous. We advanced about a mile and a half. We were halted till about 6 o'clock, when companies A and H were thrown out as advanced guard. They had advanced about half a mile, Company A acting as skirmishers and Company H as reserve, when all at once a very heavy volley, and then the firing became thick and fast, and the wounded began to come back, some alone, others being brought. One poor fellow was brought back by 3 men with 2 bullets in one leg and 1 in the other. He was laughing and cheerful, and said, as they carried him, "He was only 3 wounds, boys. Give it to them." We, that is, the remain, Company C, I, and G, were double-quicked half across the field, and the firing ceased. The rebels had withdrawn from the open space, and our companies were ordered back to the woods again. Company A lost 1 man killed, 1 taken prisoner, 13 wounded. Not as bad as we expected. The rebels, after the first volley, hid themselves behind a house and a lot of stacks of corn and wheat, which was there, making it more dangerous for our boys and better for themselves a great deal. Their first position was well chosen. They were at the foot of a little hill, so that our boys could not see them till they were within 10 rods of them. They knew that our men were coming, and we knew nothing about them, yet our boys were not panic-stricken as some troops would have been, for we had made up our minds to have it said that the Mass 15th was made of good material, and this day, if possible, should close, and the sun set upon our hearts, with our name standing high in the annals of history, and be held up as a model for all other regiments in the U.S. We think that we have gained all this, and even more. Is it not so? After we were drawn back, Company A was thrown out as skirmishers. Again they advanced as far as the place of battle, but no signs of the rebels was to be seen. They returned and reported. Just then the rest of the regiment began to arrive, and Company A was thrown out again, this time on the left of the field. Company B was put in the center, and Company C on the right, commanding the road to Leesburg. We laid on our faces so we could not be seen. We were thrown out in this way so as to give the alarm to the main body if the rebels made any forward movements. We had lain there about 2 hours when we heard occasional shots in the direction of Company B, when it began to come thicker and faster, and it was evident that the main body was engaged. Company A and B began to fall back, some coming through the woods where we were stationed. Company A had on their fatigue suit, and as one after another would show himself coming in the direction of where we lay, all the rifles would be cocked ready, for the heathens, as some have seen fit to call them, Many a one of Company A would have been shot, only for some of our boys would recognize the face and pass it along the line that he was a friend. The firing ceased again, and in a few minutes a messenger came to us and told the captain the colonel wanted him to report as soon as possible. This we did in good order, coming in double file. All the regiment was there, and many a face lit up with joy to see their companions once more. It is singular that I am here to write this, for scouts coming in reported that the rebels have surrounded Company C as they lay there in the woods on every side, but that which was towards our regiment and our were some 900 or 1,000 yards from them, but we got there without a drop of blood being spilt. After this skirmish we fell back to where General Baker was with the reserve. We there formed a line of battle, and though the general asked the colonel if he thought we could hold his position, the colonel in his cool and deliberate way answered, "We will try." And we did try, and held it till after the death of General Baker, and we got the order to retreat. We stood in line of battle, those sharpshooters of the 20th Mass on our left, our regiment numbered between 700 and 800. There were 2 companies of the 19th and 20th Regiment Mass, a part of one of the California Regiment, and 2 companies of the Terming Regiment of New York. This was all the force that we had during the day, numbering in all not far from 1,500. Some of those crossed over and had just landed when we were ordered to. After we had got our lines formed, 2 howitzers were drawn up in front, and shelled an old house in which they could see some rebels. And this is all they did, for in about a few minutes the rebels opened their fire in our front and on our right, and the way the balls flew was a caution to niggers. The California boys engaged them on our left, assisted by the 19th and 20th boys. We had fired 5 or 6 rounds, when we, that is the 15th boys, were ordered to cease firing and save our fire for the rebel cavalry which was approaching. As fast as possible we reloaded and came to the position. We stood in this way for half an hour not firing, only when one of the rebels approached to close, when the crack of a rifle would end his days. This I did once myself, bringing my man down, receiving praise from one of General Baker's aides who stood by my side. When I did the deed, just after we were ordered to cease firing, a rifled cannon was drawn up, and it powered its messengers of death thick and fast into their ranks in the shape of canister shot. This did more execution than all the rest of our firing during the day. Every man that manned him in the first place except the sergeant and lieutenant were killed. The sergeant was wounded the first shot. Our brave general helped fire it 3 times. The lieutenant, who was a great friend of Captain Boorman, was wounded in 2 places. But I was writing about the cavalry charge. As I said, we did not fire for half an hour, and then the cavalry not coming up, we opened our fire again, and awful was the fire to it. It seemed as though there were thousands upon thousands of bullets that came and went. We lost but very few men while standing here, but we saw, at least the officers saw, that in a few minutes we should be cut all to pieces, for reinforcements were arriving on their side all the time, and they were surrounding us, and we were ordered to file left and take a new position. This was a foolish move, for it brought us from the edge of the woods into the open field where the rebels could rake us, as they were stationed in the woods. This was just as bad a thing as could have been done. But glory to the old 15th, she stood as firm as an adamantine stone till the order was given to retreat. Then came the most appalling sight that ever was witnessed. There was no place, only the river to go. Every man must swim the stream or give himself up as prisoner. Without, he was lucky enough to get into one of the boats. I was one of the lucky ones. It was an awful scene to see those men trying to swim the river and see the balls strike them, and then they would sink and be seen no more. We lost more in this way than any other way. We camped that night where we were on picket guard, I mean Company C, and I tell you it was a good thing those brush houses, and we were glad to lay down after we got some tea, which our cooks had got ready, they having heard that we were retreating, and go to sleep. In the morning we got the company together, and after getting breakfast consisting of salt horse, hard bread, and coffee, we started for camp a distance of 5 miles. We only rested once. We generally rest 3 or 4 times in going that distance, but we were eager to get into camp and see how many men we had lost. The colonel was anxious to see us too. After summing it up, we find in the regiment we have lost 342 out of about 700 that went into the fight in our company. We lost 27 beside the captain, who is expected is a prisoner now, and may he be treated with kindness, for there never was a braver and cooler man in the world. Yesterday we bore to his last resting place Luther Turner, one of our company, the first one that we have had die in our company. He died of his wounds received on the day of battle. I have now given you a correct account of the proceedings of that day's work which has gained such honor for old Massachusetts and the 15th Regiment. You may show this to anyone that you are a mind to. On another sheet you will find your private letter. My love to all. From your loving son, Hiram. Camp Foster Headquarters of 15th Mass. Volunteers. General Stone's Brigade. November 2nd, 1861. Dear Parents, I have just finished the account of the battle, hoping that you will be pleased with it. I will now write an answer to your last. To commence, let me say that we are having today one of the hardest storms that ever I saw. The rain comes down in torrents and the wind blows a hurricane. I am sorry that you were so much worked up and felt so bad, for I thought that we had prepared ourselves for the worst. I am glad that my letter was a welcome messenger to you. As you say, it must have been the work of Providence that saved me from death that day. I am glad that it made Father and Marilla feel so well who beat playing gammon. And return my love to Miss Cutting for hers. I hope it will be my luck to return home to those I love before long, never more to engage in war. It is cold out there. It is cold as Greenland here. It is dinner time and it rains, so I guess I will close this by bidding you goodbye. My love to you, my dear parent, and may God bless you, my love. To all inquiring friends, and pass any account of the battle around. From your loving son, Hiram A. Chambers.